Can you imagine if they passed that law in Arkansas?
Welcome everybody to the City Council meeting for Monday, June 8th. May we have a call of order and roll call, please, ma'am.
Trey Seller.
Here.
Terry McClung.
Here.
James DeVito.
Here.
Bob Thomas.
Here.
Mickey Schneider. Here. David Mitchell.
Here.
We have 6.
All right. Pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All right, do we have any changes? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Everybody received the minutes, and can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any changes, corrections, additions? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We have on the Planning Commission a vote on Tom Buford. He was here our last council meeting and introduced himself. So, get a motion to discuss.
So moved. I'd make a motion to approve Tom Buford for position 2 on planning.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
On the position 6, I received a call this was to take Ed Leswig's position. I got a call from Ed saying that he would still like to stay on. I was under the impression that he wanted to be off when we found somebody. So I'm not sure. We'll probably, I guess, because his position did expire, or it's not going to expire. Well, it will expire, did expire. So I guess really what I need to do is bring his nomination back up again and let y'all vote on it at the next meeting.
Good. Are there any other openings on planning?
No, that's it. Tom took Mickey's position, so we've got a full commission.
Does he have to apply again and get approval?
Well, as a rule,
The paperwork.
as a rule, we just renominate him basically, and so we'll be renominating and we'll vote on him for the next meeting. Just giving you guys a head up for the 2 weeks notice on there. We do have on the hospital commission Michael Mary, who expired this month, wants to be renominated again. So again, at the next meeting, I'll bring him up for nomination on the hospital commission. We do have a position vacant on the cemetery commission. So anybody who's interested in serving on the cemetery commission, this is a great position to be on. And please contact my office or the clerk, City Hall, if you're interested. And other than that,
No, go to Parks.
oh, parks.
2 of them.
Thank you. In highlighted letters. We do have a vote on Ferguson Stewart, who's expired on 5/1/15.
Motion to approve, Mr. Stewart.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Present.
Okay.
Motion to approve Bill Featherstone.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, good.
Present.
Okay. 5-1 on both. Public comments. We have Josh Bass. Josh would come in. There he comes. Yeah, that's good. Yep. If you come up and introduce yourself and state where you live and everything.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, my name is Joshua Bass. That's just a good question, asking me where I live. I'm actually kind of a think this fell out. Let's go back in here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Anyways. I work at the Passion Play twice a week, and I come from Branson. I work there once a week also, and I'm kind of the word for it is I'm kind of a person in transition. And the reason why I'm speaking today is because I'm not sure how this is all going to be articulated, but I have some frustrations with the ordinance that was created about like sleeping in your van. And I know there's a lot of ordinances that have went through in the past, couple months about non-discrimination against people. And one thing that I think that needs to be brought up in the city is people that are in transition, people of my age that might need a place to stay at a hostel or some sort of other type of housing arrangement, that we're not kind of, I don't know, what's the word for it, like identified and seen as someone who might be like a deviant or someone who is breaking the law of some sort. I feel like we also want to be involved with the city, so there's been a couple incidences where I was like sleeping in my van because it was late and I was tired, and I got told that I was breaking an ordinance, and then so I moved behind McDonald's and I was there, and then I had another police officer at 3 o'clock at night like surround my van, like approach me, really make me really uncomfortable. I had to put my hands outside the window. They asked for where I lived, and I was like, I don't think I'm doing anything wrong here. And I felt like it was just kind of a feeling of being discriminated for being someone who is in transition. I was kind of being identified. I didn't quite feel that was right. And so I talked to Ann, I looked at the ordinances and seeing where I fit. And I guess I was breaking an ordinance, and he could have fined me. But I was given like a warning. Like he was giving a piece of paper for $50. Not $50, but it said that I could be charged $50 in the future. And I was like, this doesn't seem very welcoming. And also, he made the statement that you should probably just go get a hotel room. And I was like, I don't have enough money for a hotel room. I'm just a part-time worker working at the Passion Play. And after that, it just was kind of, again, negative energy. Didn't feel very comfortable. Felt like I was kind of being like identified as as someone that doesn't belong in the city. And I thought, well, if people are being protected on class, race, gender within the eating establishments, what are we doing here at the city of Eureka for all citizens as a human being, like who lives here? I think my rights should be protected as well, and I think there needs to be some type of solution for people that are kind of here in the city. Again, our history has been coming for health, vitality, those type of things. They're leaving places that might be more dense, maybe even more corporate. They come here to a place that's of healing energy, of healing space, and I think we need to kind of figure out a way to welcome them rather than like kind of just push them out. And kind of being in that space too with young people, I don't feel like there's much like kind of programs that are set up. I mean, if you look at Leatherwood, it was set up for people that were out of work back in the 1940s, and it was given kind of rejuvenation to folks. So I think maybe even a program in the future for people that come through, you can either just kind of get them settled or get them a place to stay, and then have them some type of work program to help them out, rather than just, bringing like a police element, into their space and making them feel very uncomfortable. So, anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. I had no idea I was going to speak today. I had an idea, but anyways,
All right.
I appreciate you so much, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to shut it off.
Welcome to my world.
Is it a reciprocal thing?
outside the city.
No, that's it.
That's it.
That's public comment. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Laura Coker.
That's a personal problem for the Passion Play. Why can't he park in the Passion Play?
Mr. Mayor and council members and city residents, I want to congratulate all of you for your work on 2223 and its passage that is indeed historic. We happen to live in a historic district that protects by law any markers and things that the city might deem to put up in testament for significant actions, political, social, or otherwise. So I have a request. I don't know whether it would be a resolution, an ordinance, so I'll just ask you all to listen briefly and figure out how it might be done. I'd like a historic marker, stone or brass plate engraved, perhaps in a designated spot at Basin Park or another area that's protected, that lists the anti-discrimination categories that you all supported. And I'd like the date of the election and perhaps your own names, or just simply the reference of the resolution that y'all passed. With that in mind, I'd like to talk a little about fluoride. Perhaps you're not aware that HB 1355 was passed with a vast majority in the House that would have provided for local control of fluoridation. And on 3/4 of 15, thanks to Becky Gillette, I had access to the videotape of it. Representative Ladyman gave the Senate that bill, and Ms. Bledsoe and Flowers voted no. That is prohibiting the Senate from reviewing the right of local versus state mandate. The important thing is that Cooper, Filippo, and Stubenfeld voted yes. That's a quorum of 5. Missy Irvin walked out just when they called that measure. And then Ingram and Sanders delayed coming into the meeting until after that was called. So out of 8 people, you had 5 present for quorum, 3 inexplicably absent, so that their votes and opinions were not recorded. I find that not acceptable, and I'd like to see that memorialized in some fashion as well in a plaque, because by that act, they took away the Senate's right to choose local control versus state mandate, and they are imposing indeed what I call a toxin. So I ask you to look at the newspaper yesterday on lobbyists. I ask you to think about the 10 minutes you were accorded, Mr. Mitchell, to visit with the health department and consider who's being represented in our stead. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comments. Next up under unfinished business is bond issue with Bo Bittle. Bo is here. So we can get a motion to discuss.
So moved. Second.
All right. I think Bo is, you want to come up and explain kind of what's going on?
Mayor Barry, members of the City Council, thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. I'm with Stevens Inc., and I know you're probably more familiar with seeing Dennis Hunt over here in the past. I've been working with Dennis for the past year. I've been over here with him on a special meeting we had last fall, and I've worked with him closely on this proposal as well. But as part of our services to the city, we continue to monitor the outstanding bond issues for potential refunding candidates. And as such, the water and sewer, there are 2 series of outstanding bonds, Series 2008, which are currently callable, and Series 2010, which will be callable with a call date as December 1 of this year. In reviewing those, there's a few ideas, a few positives into potentially refunding those. One, you'd have the ability to consolidate 2 issues into one, which would create some efficiencies within the department. It also, under the proposal we have, shrinks the outstanding issue. It does that through a lower reserve requirement, which would be used to take out some of the existing bonds. And then it also has some economic value in savings as well. There's savings that I believe when I showed you last month was around $63,000. I checked the market on Wednesday of last week, and it was still very close within that range, right around $61,000. But the biggest advantage I think to consider in this refunding is you can take those issues and extend one of the issues out through the final maturity of 2027 and lower your annual debt service. Your debt service is about to increase significantly based on the current structure of those 2 bond issues. And by doing so, you could lower what the annual requirements will be going forward throughout the rest of the bond issue's life. And so we felt like we needed to come show you that transaction and see if that was something you might be interested in. Yes, sir.
The $61,000 in savings, that's because of the interest rate?
That's right. Yes, that's correct. The interest rates on the bonds outstanding are higher than what the current market can offer.
I thought I had that with me, but I didn't bring it. Was there your fee in there? That was.
The cost to do this transaction that we're showing, we're estimating cost of issuance at just under $26,000,
Yeah.
and then the underwriter's discount to Stevens at $15 a bond, which is just under $34,000. Now the economic savings number I give you at $60,000 does take that into account. Does take that into account. However, I would not be here suggesting that the economic savings is the only and best reason to do that. It's close, but it's really marginal with everything considered.
Joyce?
Does the finance director have any opinion on this?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I've gone through this with Bo extensively. As he stated, there's not a huge economic benefit. There is some, but it will lower our future payments, and we're combining the two, and I think it's just really the way to go, quite frankly.
Okay.
And excuse me, we have depended on Stevens to do this, Dennis Hunt. Excuse me, the last time we did it, and they do monitor these and come to us when they think it's feasible to do it, and so I think it's quite honestly the thing for the city to do.
Okay.
I see where it lowers the city's payments for the first 5 years, but then it increases the city's payments for the next 7.
Well,
That's the. Let me speak to that. That's the savings page, and so what it does is you realize savings over the first 5 years, and then there actually is not savings at the end because you're re-amortizing the debt out. The debt service is actually, it levelizes at between $214,000 and $219,000. It varies in those spots. Down from for the next 5 years, you'd be looking at around just under $360,000, I believe, under the current bond structures. And so the idea is that it really decreases pressure on your debt service requirements in the near term.
In the near term.
Yes, sir.
But isn't in the near term when we can project that we're going to have a growing economy and for the city and for the nation? That's what concerns me, is that this seems to be a money-making time when we could be putting in some big money, whereas 5 or 6 years down the road, we don't know what's going to be happening, and we would be increasing our payments down there.
It does. Instead of having an extreme on one end or the other, the idea is that it levels it out over the life of the issue.
Right.
Again, to keep what we're trying to accomplish there is to relieve pressure on that high end of payment. But I understand your point as well, and that
do you think we have a lot of pressure to meet this obligation for the next 4 years?
Well, of course, we have we've not missed any payments or anything like that. But as most of you know, we have not been meeting our bond covenants of the 120% of the, and I think this will help that. Another thing that I think this is a point in time that the interest rates, we know what they are now. We don't know what they're going to be, say, if we decided to do this in 5 years from now.
Right.
And with a booming economy, if that occurs, and we hope it does, interest rates may be up,
Well, that was my concern in 7 years when the payments go up again. We probably, I mean, no, I don't think anybody's going to tell you that interest rates are going to be lower in 7 years than they are today. So, we would never really be able to refinance this, most likely. And I'm just concerned that we don't know. We could project our city's income for the next 4 years, or 2 or 3 years at least, but you can't project beyond that. And so, like at one point, you're increasing the payment $94,000 a year, $92,000 a year. That's basically just bumping it into another council's term and maybe even another mayor's term. It's, bumping it onto the next generation in a way.
But I think that, overall, we're not increasing the debt.
Right.
I mean, the debt's going to be a little bit smaller than what it is in the two issues today.
Uh-huh.
So that alone, I feel like, is probably worth doing, and the costs are included here. So we're not out any cash money to do it. So and accordingly, I think the costs are really very reasonable.
Right.
And if that was the only reason, to do it, like he said, that would not be a good plan. But I'm really liking combining the two issues. So,
Can I ask one
Yes,
question?
please.
On this chart here,
Okay, I can see the one you're looking at. Yes, sir.
where for 2015 it shows
Which one are you looking at, Bob?
the old ES
Okay.
being $87,000. Is that
Okay,
like
okay.
for 1 quarter?
Okay, gotcha.
That is, that's going to be the remaining payment on the bonds that are outstanding with a payment due in December.
But do you know what's our total payment for 2015? on
What
the
you've
bond?
already paid this year?
Well, what are we paying it? Yeah. If we didn't refinance, what is the 2015 cost of the bonds?
If you didn't refinance, all I could tell you is the remaining, what you've got left due this year, and that's just
Right.
that 87,000.
And I think isn't that basically a quarter? If we refinance on September 1 to December 1 would be a quarter of the year, right?
Well, it is, but there's what that's coming off of is that there's 65,000 in bonds that are due to be paid in December. So that 65,000 would be, they haven't had a principal payment made on it since December of 14
Right.
on that one. So
I'm done.
Mr. Mitchell, did you have something there again? Mr. McFarland?
Well, the 61,000 in savings, tell me again where that comes from?
well, there's a gross savings of $40,000 based on this, and that comes from from several things. It comes from lower interest costs. It comes from lowering the amount of bonds that are still outstanding by lowering your required reserve is half of your maximum annual debt service. And so right now you've got about $180,000 tied up in the reserve. And so with this, your maximum annual debt service would be $219,000. So that would go from 180 to 109, and that additional money will go to pay bonds that haven't been paid. You're using your own money. It's not purely interest savings, but there is interest
Reducing
savings.
principal.
That's correct, by reducing principal. So it's a $40,000 a gross number there, and then it takes into account present value of money, and so that's what gets it to $63,000. For comparison purposes, if I came and showed you a scenario where we just refunded this for economic savings only, the savings would be about $80,000. And so, again, with those two, that would still be what we would consider marginal for me to come and say this is a great idea. Come save this money based on on the outstanding principal.
My next question is, in that savings is over and above your fee? Or
It is.
2 fees?
That's correct.
That's an
Yeah, there would be the cost of issuance fee, which is the bond counsel, and then the
Which is close to 60.
combined. Yes, that's exactly right. Which anytime the savings, even though it includes those numbers, even if the savings is close to the amount of money that it's going to cost to do the transaction, we wouldn't bring that to you and say, that's a viable idea.
Yeah.
Our real reason of being here is just the idea that you could stretch this out and decrease pressure on the department's revenue stream now.
But my next question, Bo, is what is the window of opportunity? I mean, when we talked about this last fall, of course, it was, this opportunity was going to come up. We expected to be further along with the hospital situation than what we are now.
Well, I'm not ready to predict interest rate, performance, but one thing, the market's moved quite a bit in the last, 3-4 weeks from the numbers I first showed you to what I pulled to make sure we were still in line with what was in your packet. And because of the size of the issue and the fact that it's bank qualified, the volatility of the bond market doesn't work as hard on this issue.
Safer.
It is. As far as interest rate risk is concerned, you've got less volatility because of the size of the issue.
What rating are these bonds? A minus, B plus?
They're unrated.
They're unrated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Rating would be additional money, and it honestly it wouldn't. The value there, according to our desk, it would not. There wouldn't be any value to have it rated. There would not be any increased savings. The buyers that they have on this are, comfortable with what Yeah.
Okay.
Most likely, the people that have these bonds right now, that when they had them called, are going to be the same people that are looking to purchase them again. You don't know that for sure, but that's.
And we have to we have to do this now? I mean, this is the opportunity to affect these savings and this arrangement that you have here. This is only good for...
That's preliminary based on today, yes. But,
today, okay.
It could change between now and September 15th when we got the bonds offered. So,
well, I have a feeling it is. Things are not looking good out there. Yeah.
I do have one more question. Is that all right? But well, you had something. I know that you were going to ask me. And it is, how does that position us with the hospital should we decide?
I
say that's 6 months away still.
Sure. I think that if you knew that's or feel strongly about the potential of that coming together and being a part of it, I would wait, because you wouldn't, if you were going to bond money for the hospital project, then it would not make sense for us to do this in the near term, because then it'd be exorbitant in cost to get the issues done. So, but if we work towards this and we see as we get closer to it that things work together or coming together on the hospital project, then obviously we could delay. And
okay, so it's our best interest to leverage this with the hospital. Say, hey, for us to get the rates we need that are available now, as to what we suspect they could be down the road, we need movement on their part.
Oh yes, absolutely, yes. I mean, interest rates are at historical lows. People in my business have been saying they're going to go up every year, and they keep not going up. But they've got really no place else to go but up. So, I would say that that would definitely be a fair comment in dealing with them. I think what I was saying was, if you were going to, we wouldn't want to refund these bonds and knowing that within a 6-month time period that we were going to want to come back and do an issue for the hospital project, that the cost would not be worth, hurrying to do
Incorporate it all
this.
together.
Yes,
Incorporate them all.
exactly. That would make the most sense.
But on the other hand, if we put this off waiting for the hospital, we would be at a disadvantage. I have some serious thought that hospital thing's never going to go through. That's where I am with that. If we're losing an advantage here because we feel we need to wait for the hospital, then I don't think we should, because I don't think the hospital's going to go through.
You may be right in that statement, but I think you're premature in making that choice.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think we're there yet. I really don't.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchell?
So what do we have a resolution here, obviously, is the first step, it looks like. There's a resolution at the back of that packet. We have to assign a number and read it. Mm-hmm. And then there was a timeline in here somewhere. I'm going to lose it here. But it doesn't look like we're following. June 8th, it says adopt ordinance establishing rate structure. Well, obviously, we're not there. May 11th was supposed to be the resolution. So I can't see that if we start with the resolution, we're hurting anything at this point.
No. I agree.
So it'd be nice to do that. And then at the same time, Mayor, I think we need to call the hospital administrator and say, you know what, it's time. We need some action. Either step up to the plate, send Rob Mortalon up here, or let's get going. Because we're not going to mess with the city's finances and redoing our bonds and everything with the history we have with that management company. That would be a nice way to say it.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, I make a motion that we assign this resolution authorizing Stevens Inc. and Friday Eldridge and Clark LLP to proceed with the bond issue to refund certain water and sewer revenues assigned at the number and read it.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Now, I just want to be sure that, so what we're authorizing them is to go ahead and look into it, but before you do anything, you got to come back and get another vote.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Has to get an ordinance.
Okay.
Is it for passage or discussion?
For passage.
Passage. The
Read it
resolution.
for passage, yes.
Yes.
Sign a number and read it for passage. Does everybody understand the motion? Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Resolution number will be 662. Resolution authorizing Stevens Incorporated and Friday Eldridge and Clark LLP to proceed with a bond issue to refund certain water and sewer revenue bonds. Whereas the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, the city, has outstanding its water and sewer refunding revenue bonds, Series 2008, the 2008 bonds, and its water and sewer refunding revenue bonds, Series 2010, the 2010 bonds, and whereas it may be advantageous for the city to refund the 2008 bonds and or the 2010 bonds. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, Section 1, that the city expresses its intent to work with Stevens Incorporated as underwriter and hereby authorizes Stevens Incorporated to work with Friday Eldridge and Clark LLP as bond counsel to prepare the necessary documents for refunding of the 2008 bonds and or the 2010 bonds. Section 2, that the terms of the sale of the refunding bonds, including particularly without limitation, the purchase price, interest rates, maturities, principal amounts, and redemption dates shall be subject to the approval of the City Council.
All right, so done. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very
Appreciate
much.
your
I
time.
appreciate the opportunity to work with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Lonnie.
Well, I don't have your phone.
All right, our
I see.
Next order of
Thank you.
business,
That's very
under new business, is discussion of the codes regarding outside sales and special events.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
All right, Mr. McClellan, you want to start that?
Yeah, it all came to, this came up in relationship to a food truck that was set up at Cafe More on Memorial Day, I guess it was. And I didn't think that it was an approved operation or whatever. I mean, it's not approved. It's against ordinance to do that. And I ended up checking with the building inspector and the city clerk, and we had a long discussion that next morning about it, and decided that maybe it wasn't, there was not enough clarity in the ordinance as it existed. That at least maybe it should be looked at. You know, if one person reads it one way and another reads it another way, then maybe there's something wrong with it. Now let's see, it was under the peddlers and solicitors.
Can I make
and
a comment just really quick? They aren't here tonight because she got really sick and ended up in the hospital.
it has nothing to do with them
Well,
specifically.
I thought you wanted to be able to
Has
talk
nothing-
to
no, it
them.
has nothing,
Okay.
no, it has nothing to do with
Oh,
them
okay.
specifically.
Okay.
No.
I think it's just what we're trying to do is clarify the ordinance.
Yeah, you know, as I read it,
Now, which page are you on?
I'm on, it'd be page 102. That they would follow, that follows under peddling, the act, and it's the act of engaging in any trade, business, profession, vocation, or occupation from a motor vehicle, tent, open air stand, area or table, trailer, or other transient or portable structure, vehicle, or device on the streets and public property other than contiguous to the permanent place of business of the owner or renter.
Yeah, but the key part is of the owner or renter. Whereas if it's on the owner's property or if they have rented a spot from an owner.
Oops, all right, wait a minute, let's,
Well, I don't think freestanding booths on a business property or a trailer or anything like that are a permitted usage for food services. You know, if a person wants to have a flea market or something like that, then there is the law that governs that, and you're allowed to do that 3 times on a property a year. You know, a yard sale, or whether it's on commercial or residential, doesn't matter. So, food service like that. Now, another thing that was discussed that was the let's see, where was that? Was on 1 was the festival related items with a city approved, you know, a permitted event.
Page?
That is level still on 102. This is D. That's still permissible. It doesn't say food items specific, but food is a vended item. Usually at festivals, where there would be, you know, the blues festival as an outdoor thing here, or the carving festival, which they do have a food vendor at that festival, and that is a city permitted event. And so I believe that's acceptable there.
what about the wood carving?
That's what I just said.
Okay, let's, all right. Mickey?
I remember when all this was being worked on and why. The food vendor in question right now, I can remember the problems we had with food vendors just setting up camps, so to speak, not having health permits or anything like that. This particular couple has had a health inspector. They've gotten all of their food licenses. They were on the property of a restaurant with permission of the owner, and we're in the process of talking to them about renting the 10 square feet, whatever it is that was needed for that, which is what makes it, that's contiguous to the permanent place. That one line at the end of A, that was something that this was discussed back when all this was being reworked. If you want to sell popcorn and you've got the Pizza Hut, you can do it on your own property. You can't do it across the street. If you have someone that wants to rent a spot from you, providing they've got the proper health stuff, the health inspector and the licensing and all that stuff, as long as it's on a rented or owned piece of property, this is permissible, a permanent area. So if Pizza Hut was going to rent you a little spot for a popcorn maker, as long as you had the health food inspector, this was supposed to be permissible. And that's how I read that one line.
One line.
The very last line of A, other than contiguous to. Okay, if it's contiguous to or on that property, it's legal. If they have all the health stuff, which I believe that part is in another part of code, they've got to have all of their health inspections and approvals and everything else. Can't just have somebody go out there with food and hope it's okay. That's my understanding when we worked on this eons ago.
Mr. Mitchell?
Is this food truck collecting CAPC tax for that because it's a continuous of the business?
It's not sit down.
I believe
It
it
doesn't
is.
say, it has to be sit down.
The CAPC regulations requires that it be a sit-down facility, so that if there's not any tables and chairs there, they're not obligated to.
I know they're
they don't
collecting some
collect
kind
the
of
tax.
city tax.
But it's contiguous with the permanent, and the permanent has seating, so why didn't it stretch over there?
All right, Madam Clerk, you
I
got
know
any
they're
input?
collecting tax. I don't know how much or what kind.
For a moment, I'd really like to separate the two issues, and I'm really glad you brought up the festival issue. But if we just go back to what you began with, these people do have a CAPC license. They do collect and remit to the CAPC. They now have a lease agreement with the property owners of the restaurant, and a picnic bench will be provided so that element is taken care of. They do have clearance with the health department, and so they're trying to work within what the code says. I just want to let you know that they're making every effort to comply, and then later maybe we could talk about the
Mr. McClung?
food
I think the interpretation of the word contiguous has been misconstrued. I believe that means contiguous with the business that is inside the structure. If it has something, if that is being extended to the exterior, not to another transient business being allowed to set up on the property. That was, if they were going to have outside dining at Cafe Amore, then they could do that. I don't think it's for someone else to come in.
The way I'm reading this, and our city attorney can see this, it says the act of engaging in the occupation, blah, 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 from a motor vehicle, blah, 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 other than contiguous to the permanent place. So I'm seeing that as something separate.
I'm seeing it like